Welcome back to another episode of the Ark Survival Guide. We've been building this really cool floating fortress on a raft, and we took a little break in the middle because this would be a really long video if we did it all at once. So we have a pretty good foundation all the way around the raft, and we have a little house on top of it. Small, but very effective and very secure. So now I'm going to try to extend the back of this raft a little bit because we are going to extend everything way far back all the way out the sides, but for now we just want the bare minimum because I want to go and tame a Doedicurus, and in order to do that we're going to need to be able to safely travel down the coast. So the first thing I'm going to do, if you remember, we extended that foundation a little bit lower that's right next to the rudder. And so that's why the ceiling is jumping up and down, is you have one snap point to the lower foundation and one that's attached to the higher one that we're extending around from the side. So now that we've got it attached to the higher foundation snap point, I'm going to actually put a stone foundation back under there. And now there's only one panel that's extended lower, and that's the one that's directly under the rudder, and that's the only real vulnerable point of the raft. But we have it all enclosed in stone walls, so this raft should be completely invulnerable to anything that can't break stone. So that's why this is so effective. The other thing we have to worry about is whales. We'll get to that later. And the first thing I really need to do here is get some kind of a ramp going so that I can actually get on top of that raft, because there's no way to get on the raft if it's out in the water, and that could be really bad. Now, I ran out of engram points and materials, so I did not build any wooden ramps yet. That's really what we need to be using. Oh, this ceiling is keeping me from getting out the door, so I'm going to demolish that real quick. And now we can get out the door. Great. I was a little worried about that for a second. So I'm trying to use a sloped thatch ceiling because that was the cheapest thing, and I've already got the engrams for it. Oh, here we go. And it will actually snap to this ceiling. That is really awkward and weird, but it's working. So we now have a ramp where we can actually access the raft. So that'll do the trick. I could demolish this, but I think I'll leave it there just in case it's the only thing holding that sloped ceiling on there. The sloped ceilings, you normally use a different ceiling tile that is actually a sloped ceiling. It's basically like a triangle attach point for the ceiling. But I don't have any of those, so we'll just make do with what we have. So now I want to actually furnish this little base we have, and the first thing I need is a storage box, because we're going to be getting lots of materials and I need something to store them in. So we'll put that at the very edge of this base. We're going to pack everything really tight because this is a tiny little living space. And we're going to get a bed in here and just kind of squeeze that into the corner. So I will rename this bed, and you can't see me typing, but I'm going to call this the Floating Fortress because that is really what this is going to be later on in the game for us. And now that we have two beds, we can actually teleport between the two beds. Anytime you place an actual bed, you can teleport from one to the other. The thing you have to remember when you're teleporting is you have to drop all of your items and store them, including all of your clothing, because when you teleport, everything is dropped at the first bed. So never forget to properly store your items before teleporting. I'm still keeping an eye out for sea scorpions and whales. Oh, and another thing I did while I was gathering all of this stuff is I leveled up and was able to build a crossbow. Now, it's just like any other metal tool, we just had to build it in the smithy, but that crossbow is much more powerful than a traditional bow, and it can fire underwater, which is going to be perfect for fighting off things like sea scorpions. I'm sure we'll be using this a lot later on. It also makes tranquilizing arrows do a little bit more damage to the enemy, but they also tranquilize them faster, so it's actually a really nice tool. It's going to give us a huge edge on the competition. So I took a little break and got some more materials. I did actually level up and finally learn those wooden ramps. So I actually built a couple wooden ramps, and we can make some proper ramps for this boat because we really need them. I'm bringing my Raptor down because the next thing I want to do is build a way that I can keep my Raptor safely on this boat. Still checking for whales and sea scorpions, not seeing anything. So right now, if I have my entire base is really secure, even a T-Rex can't smash it. Only a whale could do that. But I want to bring my Raptor along for the ride, and if I have my Raptor on the base, he can get killed by all kinds of stuff. So I want to build some way to keep him safe from most enemies that would be attacking. So first thing I'm going to do is build this wooden ramp. They snap right off the edge of foundations, and you can see that that actually just works beautifully because that's what wooden ramps are designed to do. So sloped ceilings are designed to attach to ceilings and walls, and wooden ramps are designed to work well with foundations. So that's much easier to work that way. They also work with ceiling tiles pretty well. So the next thing I want to do is I actually want to extend the top of this base because I want to basically build a tower that my raptor can sit on and be safe from most predators. He may still be in range of T-Rexes, but hopefully we won't run into any of those anytime soon. So I'm going to be building this base kind of bit by bit as we get the materials for it. And I kind of have a general plan for how I want this base to work when it's in its finished form. And I want it to be 2 stories, and I want the second story to have windows. So I'm going to use window panels for this section, and go ahead and extend these up higher. And I also want to have some ceiling panels on top. So as you can see, we put a wall up above it, and we're snapping a ceiling right off the back of that wall. I'm doing the absolute bare minimum that I can to build this up higher, just because I'm trying to save materials, because it takes a long time to gather enough stone to do anything with. So as you can see, this is kind of ridiculous. I've got a wall sticking off the back, and a ceiling just hanging off the wall, and a ceiling hanging off that ceiling. So it's kind of ridiculous, but we're just making it work. I don't know if you can hear my cat in the background, but she's just spazzing out back there. So now we have 2 walls, 2 ceilings. It's just a really basic platform, but it's just enough that we could sit a raptor safely on top of there. I'm also going to build some ladders coming down from this first ceiling. As you can see, that ladder is snapped. It's not quite right. It's hanging over a little bit. So I'm going to snap the ladder to the bottom there, where it's actually up against the wall properly. I always test ladders to make sure I can climb up them because sometimes they'll glitch and you just can't climb them. So you always want to double check that. And then the second ladder is just snapped off the first one, so that's all working. And now I am actually going to extend this one more back along the middle. So I've kind of got an overhang here. And then I'm going to build ramps going down into the water. This looks crazy. You can see ramps are always really difficult to place. I don't know what it is, but their snap points just get weird. So I'm extending ramps down all the way into the water here. So things could technically come up this ramp from the water, but I'm always going to be able to face this to the back. And most things won't be able to swim up that ramp just because it's kind of like that tree that keeps us safe on our plateau. You have to have something line up just perfectly in order to get up that ramp. So hopefully we won't have too much trouble with predators coming up that ramp. But now we've got ramps on the front and the back. We have a nice little platform on the roof that we can use for sniping things. And another thing about this crossbow that we just made is its range is much further than a regular bow. So I can shoot things that are much further away than I used to be able to shoot. So I could probably hunt that trike that's sitting out there if I wanted to at this point, because if I'm up on top of this ceiling like a couple stories high, the trike should not be able to reach me from there. And I can pretty much just shoot stuff down without it being able to hurt me. So that'll keep me pretty safe. And the most important thing is it should keep my raptor very safe. So I'm going to get him up on the ramp here, and yep, perfect. That's nice and easy. So now we have a pretty safe platform, and we are going to be pretty close to ready to go and try to find a nice Doedicurus. Tune in next time, and we'll see if we can do that.